I'd like to invite our Boy Scout to come forward and lead us in the pledge. We'd all stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you come to the microphone and introduce yourself, young man?
My name is Theo Sayre, and I'm a Boy Scout from Troop Sum 153, which is chartered by St. Bridget's over in Johns Creek.
And what brings you here tonight?
I'm here for 2 requirements on separate merit badges. One is the Communications Merit Badge, and one is the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
Welcome here. We have scouts up here behind the dais. Councilman Orleans was a Life Scout. Councilman DiPolito was a Life Scout. Councilmember Price was the mother of an Eagle Scout, and she still is. And my brother and I were Eagle Scouts at Troop 87, so good to have you here tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Let's have a hand for the Boy Scouts. Oh. Did I miss another Boy Scout? Do I have another Boy Scout here? You're not going to escape. Come forward. You didn't have your uniform on. Oh, he's hiding. I would have brought you forward here to help. You'll introduce yourselves. We do this to all the Boy Scouts who come here.
All right. I'm Elijah Kine from Troop 356 in Roswell.
And what brings you here tonight?
The requirement 5 for the Communications Merit Badge.
Good to have you here tonight. One more hand for the Boy Scouts. Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion to approve. Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone have any audience have any questions concerning the consent agenda? If not, all in favor, raise their hands. Yes, Councilmember Price.
I just wanted to extract numbers 2 and 3, please, so that only leaves 1.
You wish to pull 2 and 3 off the agenda?
Yes, please.
We will do that. We'll only be voting on the council meeting minutes. All in favor of the minutes, raise their hands. That's approved unanimously. I see we have representatives from the Daughters of the American Revolution. Are you here for the Georgia Day proclamation? If you'll come forward, I'll read that proclamation and then we'll hear from the daughters. Georgia Day. Today was Georgia Day down at the Capitol for Mayor's Day. We met with the governor and the lieutenant governor and the Speaker of the House and our Senate candidates. And we had a good day at Georgia Day. Whereas the state of Georgia was founded by General James Edward Oglethorpe, who received a royal charter for establishing a colony in order of King George II, hence the name Georgia, and led 116 people from England on the HMS Anne, landing near present-day Savannah on February 12, 1733. And whereas George Walton, Button Gwinnett, and Lyman Hall each signed the Declaration of Independence on behalf of Georgia, which became the 4th state to ratify the U.S. Constitution on January 2nd, 1788. And whereas since its founding 281 years ago, Georgia has grown to over 9 million people and progressed from a rural state to a commercial, financial, and cultural center for the southeast in the nation. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim February 12, 2014 as Georgia Day in the City of Roswell, encourage all of our citizens to acknowledge and celebrate our state history and our accomplishments, and we want to thank the Daughters of the American Revolution for bringing this proclamation forward to us. Anything you wish to add, ladies?
No, I think you've covered it beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have a hand for the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And next, Roswell celebrates Black History Month every February, which is beginning early this year. So if the folks who are working on Black History Month would come forward, please, as I read the proclamation. They asked me how Black History Month was coming this year, and I said it must be coming well because I haven't heard from y'all, and I only hear from you if things are not going well. But I do make it a point to come to functions for Black History Month, which has made February, an otherwise cold and dreary month, an exciting month in the city of Roswell. Whereas the celebration of Black History Month was begun by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the son of former slaves. And whereas Black History Month has been celebrated nationally in America since 1926, and whereas February was designated Black History Month in recognition of black achievements that greatly impacted American history, and whereas the Historic and Cultural Affairs Division of the City of Roswell Recreation Parks Historic and Cultural Affairs Department, working with a volunteer steering committee, will host the Roswell Roots Festival, Black History and Culture, for the 13th year. And whereas the Groveway Community Group, the Roswell Regional Library, the Southern Trilogy Homes, the Visitor Center, Pleasant Hill Missionary Baptist Church, Teaching Museum North, the Roswell Historical Society, the Child Development Association, and Aurora Cineplex are also participating. And whereas the 2014 Roswell Roots Festival includes 6 exhibits and 20 events, including African art, photography, cooking, drumming, live music featuring the Masters of Soul concert, storytelling, lectures, workshop, a poetry slam, my favorite, a cornbread cook-off, which you cannot miss, a film screening, and more. Whereas the Roswell Roots Festival celebrates the contributions of Roswell's African-American citizens, past and present. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2014 is Black History Month and call upon all of our citizens to participate. So, let's have a hand for Black History Month and all these folks. Now we'll hear the details of what's going to happen in February to make this the brightest, cheeriest month in Roswell.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. The proclamation says a lot about what we're up to, but we're very excited this year that we do have some new partners who have joined with us in this festival, including the Child Development Association, Aurora Cineplex, the Historical Society, and the producers of the documentary film 3 Minute Activist, The Soul of Slam, and the Southern Foodways Alliance, as well as our many returning partners, the Groveway Community Group, Pleasant Hill Missionary Church, the Roswell Library, the Teaching Museum North, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Zion Missionary, North Fullerton Drama Club, and more. And several of our, several new as well as returning members of the Roswell Roots Steering Committee, including of course, our historic site coordinators, Pam Ruppert and Chuck, Gail Bohannon and Marie Epps with Groveway Community Group, Gina Sabile and Tommy Ramsey with the Teaching Museum. And new with us this year are Cheryl Small of the library, our new director, Sally Hansel, who's the owner of Mimosa Hall and an art critic, Lorian Talmadge, a community volunteer, Elaine De Niro and Johanna Hardnett of the Historical Society, Sharon Crumley, a community volunteer, Terry Shields with Pleasant Hill, and Reverend Frank Lewis with Zion Missionary. And now I invite some of the members who are here with us to tell us very briefly about their particular programs, starting with Chuck.
We're really excited this year to be doing something totally different at Smith Plantation. Every Saturday in the month, we're going to have the Gems of Africa. We'll have an art exhibit and sale in the barn, our barn exhibit space. They've been a really well-known gallery in Atlanta for over 20 years, and we'll have an opening reception on the 8th, and then a batik demonstration at the Adult Rec Center on the 8th, and then a batik workshop at the Roswell Arts Center on the 15th. So combining efforts with them to do those things.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Small. I'm the new manager at the Roswell Regional Library. And in the spirit of literacy and lifelong learning, we will be having the Underground Railroad paper quilt workshop for children every Saturday in February, as well as the author, Zellie Orr, and her title of her new book, First Top Guns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Sally Hansel. I curated an art show at Barrington Hall that will bring 7 large-scale photographs by nationally known photographer Sheila Prebright. These photographs depict the interiors of African-American affluent suburban homes. They were shot around the Atlanta area, and we will be placing them on the mantles of Barrington. We won't be putting any holes in the walls. They'll just be put on the mantles to create a striking juxtaposition. On February 16th, Sunday, the house will be open free of charge to the public, and Sheila will give an artist talk, and then we will have a panel discussion with Sheila, a member of the Atlanta student movement, and an African-American cultural historian. This will all be focused on largely on African-American suburbia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gail Bohannon, and Groveway Community Group will be rocking on again this year, February 9th at 3 o'clock with another Thames production. Last year she did Phenomenal Woman. This time it will be Phenomenal Men. So if you missed it last year, you missed a treat. And also we will be dedicating our program in memory of Deacon Alex Knuckles Jr., who was our President Emeritus, also President Groveway for 40 years. And so if you're interested in getting tickets, I do have some tonight. Tickets in advance, $10 at the door, I believe, or $12. So see me, and I'll be sure to get you some.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tommy Ramsey. I'm representing the Teaching Museum North. On February the 24th, Bright Star Touring Theater out of Asheville, North Carolina is going to bring Let It Shine. It's a play about the civil rights, and the city has also sponsored that same play to go to 3 Roswell schools. It'll go to Roswell North, Sweet Apple, and Crab Apple during the month of February.
Hi, I'm Elaine Denier. I'm the archivist for this Roswell Historical Society in the City of Roswell, and we're going to have an exhibit downstairs in the rotunda from the whole month of February, and it is going to have over 60 photographs, artifacts, and textiles from the local African-American community here in Roswell. This is going to be a highlight. It's going to be the Black heritage of unsung heroes, of the everyday unsung heroes of Roswell, Georgia, from antebellum times through the civil rights movement, and we hope that you'll enjoy it downstairs for the month of February.
Thank you.
Hi, at the Cultural Arts Center, we have Masters of Soul Motown concert, February 7th. That's 2 weeks. And then we also have the entire month an exhibit up in the lobby called It's Who We Are.
Great.
And this is our grand finale. A special guest, Michael Harper, who is the director and producer of a film he'll tell you about.
Good evening. I am Michael Harper, screenwriter, producer, director with Mad Mouth Media and Cogitate Productions. We were incredibly happy and proud to film part of the Slammin' in the Suburbs Slam last year, and we sat down with about half a dozen of the premier poets, performance poets in the Southeast, and had dinner with them and interviewed them and filmed them. And now we've got a feature film that will start making the festival rounds, and we are in discussions with distributors now. We had unprecedented access, so I want to say thank you again to the City of Roswell for letting us come in with our cameras and capture this phenomenal event. I know that the event this year is on the 20th, and our free screening is on Georgia Day, February 12th at the Aurora Cineplex. Red carpet starts at 6:30. Doors open to the theater at 7, and a free screening begins at 7:30. There will be a Q&A with the producers and the featured poets afterwards, and I have brought the trailer for the film with me tonight. Thank you again so much for letting us capture this phenomenal event.
Thank you.
It made a really good movie, if I do say so myself.
So now for the trailer? Roll it.
You want to say that all day?
Yes. I do. Well, maybe we can get this for. Thank you so much. All right, so can folks, do we have some programs in the back? Yes, sir. If you're leaving tonight? Buy your ticket. And you can buy a ticket from Gail? And if you want to go online for more information, where do you go?
RoswellRoots.com.
RoswellRoots.com. One more hand for RoswellRoots.com. Thank you. Thank you for all that y'all do. It's a great program. Next, we have recognition for the City of Roswell receiving the Atlanta Regional Commission Green Communities Gold Award. Marley Press, come forward. Well, I want to do this one.
Well, that's a different one then.
Different one.
That's not on.
This is what we want today. Where's Marley? Well, I will have to tell you about this award. Mike Fisher helped. Mike, you can come forward and receive this award. I want this to go on Marley's desk. Roswell was recognized today yesterday in front of all of the mayors and council member of the state at the Hilton for winning the Sea Walk Cities. This was for which city could walk the most and was the fittest, most active city in the state. It was won by the City of Roswell, primarily through the efforts of Marley Press, because they were measuring how far you walk. Well, Marley doesn't walk, she runs marathons, and she runs it on a regular basis. So I'd like you to present this to Marley and put it on her desk, because without Marley, I have no doubt, they didn't rely upon the mayor to make those miles. It was Marley Press who made those, or the council, it was Marley Press. So come forward and receive this. So let's have a hand for the walkers of the City of Roswell and Marley Press. Next, we have recognition for the City of Roswell receiving Atlanta Regional Commission Green Communities Gold Level. And Mike and I were down at the ARC meeting to receive this. And Kent, I would like you to introduce this, because you have always been an advocate for green cities.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go down there as well. This time, we went for the silver one. And there was actually a citizen group several years back that we worked to actually start this whole process, but Michael really carried it forward and took it to get to the green level, the gold level. We've always thought we should be the gold level, but now we finally are. But I think that Michael probably really deserves most credit and thanks for all the work to make it happen.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Eichelhart, and Mayor, I appreciate that. We upgraded when we first got certified 4 years ago. We had the silver certification, and it was highly suggested that we work towards the gold certification at the recertification point, which we did. ARC presented that in January at their board meeting. To reach the gold certification, we did add some new programs, some of which you'll see on the board that was presented by the ARC. Some of our green building incentives were very important to them. Alternate fuel, I'd like to give you an update. We now have that infrastructure in place. We have 10 F-150 vehicles that have now been converted to propane auto gas. We talked about that some time ago. It has finally come forth and they are now converted, so we'll be fueling those vehicles with auto gas propane. Some solar lighting that was put in was a very interesting project at Roswell East that we don't even need the lights on during the day anymore, and they have enough light, good light for playing sports and basketball within the gymnasium. And then the community has also been certified by the National Wildlife Federation as a wildlife habitat, which was very interesting because that took a great deal of community effort to be able to get that certification. So we're very proud of that. There's about 80 jurisdictions in the ARC if you consider the 10 counties plus the 70 other cities. Out of those, there's only about 18 that are even certified. And the City of Roswell has achieved that gold level.
There are only 4 jurisdictions that have received the gold level. So out of those 80, we're in the top 4.
We are one of the top ones, and you can't get higher than the gold right now. And it's because of the support that you guys have done as council members and mayor. Appreciate your support. I also, while I'm here for just a minute, I've got to give some thanks to the departments that gave a great deal of effort in putting together their programs, going that extra mile to get that information up. They provided all that to us so that we can have a more sustainable environment and a community. I also want to thank Chris Ward. Councilmember Brocklehart was very nice in saying that I worked on that, and I've got to say that Chris Ward was very dedicated in following up with all of the departments and all of the programs that we have. She put all that together into a portfolio so that we could present our story to ARC, and she did it in such a way that it was so clear they could see it and look at it, and they had no choice but to give us gold because we achieved that.
I was asked when we received this, why did Roswell do this? And my answer was, is our citizens demanded it. So I want to thank the citizens of Roswell for really taking the lead and coming to the council and coming to the staff and saying we want to be a green community. So let's have a hand for all those citizens and everybody made that happen. Thank you.
And Chris has some lapel pins that we got as a part of this, and each one of you will also receive one of those. So we'll have this up in the rotunda, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And the last we have is a consideration of rules of conduct for the mayor and council. Mr. Davidson, would you present that?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution to provide for rules of mayor and council
conduct.
Can
we get this on the screen? The rules on the screen? Yes, sir. As we're talking about them.
Thank you. The purpose of these rules is to foster an environment of civility and effectiveness and to establish the manner in which the mayor and city council should interact with city staff. There are 7, or actually I guess there's only really 5 rules, but those rules are: individual council members should not direct employees of the city. Number 2 is the mayor shall not direct employees of the city except where authorized by the charter or as may be provided by ordinance consistent with the charter. Number 3 is the mayor and or individual council members shall not reprimand, rebuke, reprove, or scold staff. Number 4 is individual council members shall not speak or represent themselves as speaking for the city unless authorized by the mayor and or council. Number 5 is the mayor shall not speak or represent himself as speaking for the city where expressly prohibited by city ordinance or where contrary to policy adopted by the council. Prohibited acts shall include negotiating the sale or purchase of real or personal property or the terms of contracts without authorization of council. And then the last 2 are just the process for how complaints will be handled. And if approved, these would be the rules for mayor and council.
Before we entertain a motion, are there any comments or questions from council? Do we have a motion to approve these rules?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DePolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding these rules of conduct? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've certainly express your right to put these codes of conduct together, and I suppose by voting for them, we will have approved it in concept and in these details. But I just want to relate to you a conversation I had with a fellow mayor of North Fulton, whose council put together something like this that essentially gagged him in the last year, and it didn't work out so well for them. So I'm hesitant to offer my support if it ended up badly in Johns Creek.
Well, in Johns Creek, I was part of that because the conversation that the mayor in Johns Creek had that was or was prohibited from having was the conversation with me. This would not prohibit the mayors from having the conversations or council members from having conversations with other council members or anyone else. It simply says when you're having that conversation with another entity, you are not in a position to hold yourself out as representing the city unless you have been so authorized by the council. With the exception of the mayor, the charter, by charter it says the mayor is the spokesman for the city of Roswell. So although I would not adopt these if it muzzled me or if it prohibited council from having productive discussions with other elected officials, but it simply goes to how you hold yourself out as. If you're holding yourself out as representing the city without authority, then you go beyond the bounds. So I hope that's clarified. There is no intention to muzzle anybody on this council. I encourage a discussion and with other elected officials. I think we've got a great working relationship with all of our cities up here, and I believe in fostering that relationship. So that is not the intent, nor is it the language of the rules. Other questions or comments? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the first line where it says the purpose is to foster an environment of civility and effectiveness really goes over the intent of what we're trying to put together here. And there is not a huge issue here on the council. And I've had a couple people say to me, well, what's going on there? Are things out of control? No, the answer is absolutely not. It's just that when situations do arise, the elected officials really have no code of conduct to fall back on because we're not subject to the policies and procedures of the city. We're granted pretty broad authority, and with that authority comes a lot of responsibility. And I think part of that responsibility is we need to govern ourselves and make sure we have the mechanisms to govern ourselves accordingly. So this is just a small way of doing that. And I think as a suggestion, we're talking about elaborating on some of these rules in the future. I think what might be helpful is to really tie these into the policies and procedures that are established for the employees of the city so that there's a direct tie-in, there's a direct link. Maybe we just extract some of those policies so that they are, there's a direct link to the rest of the rules for the city. So that would be one suggestion. But I do support it. Essentially what we're doing is codifying the golden rule, and you can never get yourself into trouble if you treat others as you expect them to treat you.
Rich, you make a good point. Katie, you wish to discuss the what's going to be done on the staff side to sort of support this resolution?
Yes, sir. Once the form of the resolution is adopted, then staff, we will have training, for lack of a better way of saying it, so that we make sure that all our staff that are responsible for implementing the policy set by the mayor and council and preparing items for agendas or interacting with council members and the mayor related to the business of the city, so that everyone understands that intent and purpose, and to Councilmember DiPolito's point, that it does tie in with the policies and procedures that are already in place for the way that we conduct our business at the staff level.
Any further discussion before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Yeah. Yes, sir. That question from Councilmember Price.
Yeah, just, I mentioned this at the work session the other day, or committee meeting, whatever it was, that a number of entities do these codes of conduct, and in some ways, I think we haven't gone far enough. For instance, it doesn't really include the way that council will treat each other, and I think that's been a problem in the past. We had a retreat last year, and there were some issues that came up and that still haven't been addressed, and I'm just not sure that this covers them. And also there's the issue of how people conduct their private lives, and should there be illicit activity or substance abuse. All those sorts of things I think should be added to this, such that when we go to closure, we have the ability to talk to each other about concerns that we have.
As the draftsman for this rules of conduct, I took my direction from the city charter and tried to limit those areas in which the charter gave me direction. As far as your suggestion for further discussion, I think that's a good one. Katie, you want to tell us where we are as far as moving forward with further discussions for recommendations for elected official conduct?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Based on the feedback that we got at the last work session, I was in contact with our facilitator from the last retreat regarding the things that we had discussed. We've talked a couple of times, and pending the outcome of this policy setting, then we would move forward to go ahead and have a work session or whatever form the mayor and council would like to further refine the things that we should be doing.
Any further discussion before we take a vote? Councilmember Orleans.
Excuse me. I think these are things that over the years we've had discussions about in prior councils, and I know I've been in those discussions. And I think it's just trying to put out some basic elements. As elected officials, we don't really answer to anyone in the city. But we really are supposed to act as kind of a board of directors for the city, and not as a department head, not as an employee. And we should go through the chain of command administratively and through our city administrator and department heads. So I think this is just kind of giving a basic outline of those types of things. We've never had a new council member package to kind of go over some of these things or kind of heighten some of the ideas. And so this is, I think, a good start.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That is unanimous. Thank you, and we'll come to the main agenda item. And for that, I'll call upon Community Development Liaison Nancy Diamond.
Mr. Mayor, are we going to do those two consent agenda items?
No, not until we reach the different department heads. They'll be in the order in which the department heads come up.
Okay. This item is approval of an ordinance to create the Unified Development Code map, and this would be the first reading, and Brad Townsend is here to catch us up.
I want to start by saying this evening we'll be discussing the map for the proposed Unified Development Code. A little bit of background related to this. This map has really been drafted in conjunction with the 2030 Imagine Roswell Comprehensive Plan Future Development Map. The current map was adopted in 2003. Since that time, there's been 115 rezonings, 31 conditional uses, and 93 FCA designations put on that map since that time. The objective is to clean up those inconsistencies with the FCA and the other items on the map. Staff took the first crack at drafting the map. Also, there was distribution to property owners requesting their information and their review of the map. As mentioned during the public hearing of the text, Alice, Jackie, and myself had attended probably at least 50 different HOA, Homeowners Association group type meetings. What I'm going to put up on the screen is the review date drafts that staff has had with the mayor and council just relating to some type of map review. So we've gone at least from April of this year to this evening, and we'll have another reading in February 10th for the text and the map. Jackie, can you just put up the regular? Yeah, put up. I want to show the existing zoning map. That is our existing zoning map. It's kind of hard to see on the screen, but the paler yellow designation is the property that is currently FCA. The FCA designation is over 18% of our current land area and close to 4,300 acres of property, which you really can't tell what's going to happen on that with an FCA designation. It takes a review of Fulton County records and a translation from Fulton County zoning to city zoning. Our current map in this form is over 70% residential, over 16,000 acres. It's 11% in the commercial designations, but that doesn't identify what's in the overlay designations, so you don't know what's commercial or not commercial. Put up the new map, Jackie. Just screen to the whole. No, just hit the one box, Jackie. Next one next to it. There you go. This is our proposed UDC map. What I'm going to do is break it down into smaller pieces. Within the residential designations, our areas include over 72% of the property. That includes our planned residential areas, what we regularly refer to as our E1s and our E2s, R1s and R2s. Those are changing as in name, but they're not changing as in location or development parameters for those locations. In this map, we have approximately 8.5% in our corridors and nodes. That is our Parkway Village designation, our shop front. We have approximately a little over 1%, 1.18% in our downtown areas, our downtown house designations, and about 4.25% in our employment designation. The biggest change designation-wise is actually included in our civic areas. We now have our schools, our recreation, our parks in either a civic, a recreation, or a conservation area, and that is approximately 13% of the property. This map shows our agricultural locations, our larger lot residential areas, and the planned residential developments. This is the 70% of our property in designations that will remain consistently exactly what they have today. This map indicates our RTH designations, our RM2 and our RM3. This is to accurately map what is on the ground today for a apartment complex, a townhouse development, and have those designations represent what they have today. I have the other individual designations broken down on individual maps if anyone would like to see them, but they include our commercial nodes, our designations for downtown. Let me include the one historic map. This is our historic boundary map. It is the current boundaries that we have today. Those boundaries are not changing. It is the same land area. What we're proposing in there is to identify the civic uses as the churches and City Hall in a civic designation, but everything in the downtown is to be represented either in the downtown residential, downtown mixed use, downtown shop front, or downtown house. This map represents what we've created in our civic and open space category. The civic and institutional being our schools, parks are in the recreation and our conservation areas, as well as the 3 golf courses that are in the community are identified in this location. So this really helps represent what is happening in the neighborhoods that shows where the commercial civic areas are located. That really concludes the presentation that I have. I know there are probably what we placed on the back table and sent to council was, I believe, about 18 or 19 areas that were on a spreadsheet that we had. We received a wonderful spreadsheet earlier today with 2,800 locations, which had 400 of them, some of them had some tweaks or changes, and the rest of them had questions. So actually what staff was able to provide and create since that time is a map that shows all 2,800 locations. So it really depends on how council wishes to go through the list that they have and how they can direct staff. The large map that's on the back of the wall, I've got another one up here that the residents can see, as well as I'm probably, depending on how mayor and council wants to go through this, I can start from the west and go east, or east and go west, and talk individually on each of those. It really depends on how council wants to direct. Or
after David Davidson explains where we are in the process,
okay,
I'm going to hear comments and questions from the floor.
Okay.
And then we'll hear comments and questions from council. And after we hear comments and questions from council, we'll entertain a motion. If I get a motion in a second, then we can entertain amendments to the motion after that.
Okay.
So I want to start with thank you for your presentation. We'll go to David to explain to everyone where we are in the process, and I'll open it up for questions and comments from the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. At the last meeting of Mayor and Council, we had proposed an ordinance for the text of the UDC along with the map. At the time, the council adopted the text, but did not adopt the map, which has now been brought forward to this meeting. They are still considered part of the same ordinance. So if this is denied tonight, the ordinance would fail. If it's amended, that's fine. It'll just go to the second reading. If it's approved with amendments, it can go forward to the second reading. The second reading is scheduled for the first or the second week in February. And so that's where we are right now. Basically, if this fails tonight, the first reading of the ordinance will fail. If it's amended and approved, then that amendment will come forward to the second reading of the single ordinance.
just so everybody understands, there will be more public hearings. There'll be a public hearing at the second reading. It's possible it could go to be deferred and go for a public hearing after that. So this will not be your last opportunity to be heard, but I want to try to focus tonight on questions regarding the map, questions or comments regarding the map as proposed. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Just come forward, please.
Hi, I'm Frances Larry, and I'm representing the concerns of the Inverness subdivision in the Garrison Hill section of town. What we're concerned about is that on the south side of Highway 120, between the Kroger and Willio Road, it is now designated, the empty area is OP. On the proposed map, it looks like it's moving to mixed use, which would allow apartments, and we are opposed to that. We want it to remain OP. All of the conditions for both the Kroger property and the R3 apartments that exist next to the Krogers, we would like that to stay in full force with no increase of zoning allowed, so that a higher density build could not come in there. Several people from our community have spoken to Brad about this, and Brad mentioned that some of the language in the UDC might address this from previous lawsuit issues, but we are concerned that a change in the zoning could allow for higher density if a developer decided to sue, if it went to mixed use. So we're concerned about that. We're also concerned because we think we'd lose. We think the developer would win if there's a change in zoning. The other thing is that there are proposed buffer changes of changing the buffers from 50 feet to 20 feet. And the way that land lays itself out, we're very concerned about that. We don't really want the buffer zones to change from 50 to 20 feet. The other concern that we have is, as far as the Garrison Hill design guidelines, we understand that a draft is due from the Colorado company this week, but it would be a couple of months after the UDC is closed before action would be taken on it. So we need to insist that these guidelines continue as they are. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Brad, could you talk about, try to respond to her questions? The first question, perhaps to respond to, is the question of are we rezoning to apartments?
We're not rezoning to apartments. The use of an apartment complex is a conditional use. The discussion that they're talking about is this parcel right here, which on our current map is OP, and I think it's just People's Complex in that location, and the other one is located right here. So those are the two OP designations that they're concerned about that we're showing as mixed use.
Is that, first of all, is that accurate? Are those the two parcels you're concerned about?
Well, there are some parcels along 120 that now, there's some acreage around some private homes that could be sold that are, I think most of them are used as...
On the other side of 120, or...?
No, on this side. I think so. That are used as offices, and I think that's one of the concerns that we have. And of course, we know that...
Let's try to stick to one question at a time.
Okay.
And because I want to try to try to respond to all your questions, but I don't want to get confused. It's easy for me to get confused. So I think you raised a question about changing zoning from OP to something else.
Mixed use.
So to mixed use. So first of all, Brad was trying to identify the two parcels which he thought that applied to, and I was just questioning, did you have a question about some other one being changed to OP to mixed use?
Jackie just put on the screen, if you look at the two blue locations on the map, that's 120, backs up to the Inverness property. Those are the two scenarios in which we feel the mixed use should go to an OP designation. So staff doesn't have a problem taking the mixed use off of that and making those OP.
So you're suggesting those go back to OP?
Correct.
Does that, would you be, are you comfortable if it goes back to OP?
We want it to be OP, yes,
Okay,
we are.
so
Thank you.
staff is suggesting that do that. Now,
Correct.
let's see if we can get the second question. The council will have an opportunity to ask questions after I complete mine, and then you can get to it. But let's try to focus. Let's try to get the questions answered, and then we'll hear from council. So, the two OPs that you were concerned that concerned going to mixed use are going back to OP.
Yes.
Now, what was the next concern? Garrison Hill guidelines, I know that's coming forward and that's not being voted on tonight. What else did you have a
That's
concern
not being
about?
voted on, I'm
Buffers,
sorry.
you had a concern about buffers.
We did have a concern about buffers. We want the buffers to remain at the 50-foot, not
Which
to go to
parcels are we
20 foot.
talking about?
Well, that's hard to represent. The building setback is a 50-foot setback. We currently have in our code a 40-foot buffer, and what's being adopted is the opportunity to put a wall in a 20-foot buffer, or not to have a wall and maintain the 40-foot buffer. So I think there's some confusion as to what the setback would be, and it was really determined on case by case of whether it is a protected district that it abuts or it is not a protected district. So in either instance, we are still maintaining a 40-foot buffer, but the landowner or property owner has the opportunity, if they want to reduce it to 20 feet, they have to then put in a wall, which is not a requirement today.
So that would be a change.
Right.
And you're opposed to that change?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, does council had some questions about this? Sure, what are your questions?
Well, my understanding when we embarked on this $500,000 project, that anything that went from one zoning designation would stay in that zoning designation, although we've gone from 18 zoning categories to 30. So obviously, some have to change because we've actually made it less simpler instead of more simple. But be that as it may, if this was OP and we still have a category called OP, why was this not made OP? And
It is being made OP now.
well, but no, I want to know why. How did it change?
Staff put
When
on
did it
the map
change?
the request to make it mixed use.
I'm sorry, staff what?
Staff put on the original map to make it mixed use, to match the future land use map in dealing with providing a mixture of uses in more designations.
But weren't we told that it was going to, anything that was something before would not change unless it had to change? And in this case, since we still have an OP designation, why did it have to change?
Because staff was represented through the comp plan that we wanted to put more mixed use.
It does not have to change, and in fact, it now is going back to where we were. As far as what was told, I don't recall being told that there would be no changes, but if we're moving, I'm trying to move forward here. As far as what happened in the past, if you believe things change and you were misrepresented, that's appropriate to make your protest. But as far as what is being read, do you wish it to remain to be OP, or do you wish it to be changed to something else?
I'm happy to keep it the way it was, but also the lady from Inverness needs to also be very careful that the use chart, maybe it still says OP, but the use chart will be the key as to what changes also. Well, I would just caution you to look at the use chart and see if it's different from what it was before. And if you have any further requests of us, please make them known.
She needs to come to the mic.
Please come to the microphone.
I'm sorry. We want all of the current OP zoning to stay all the way from the Kroger on 120, this is the south side of 120, from the Kroger on 120 all the way to Willio Road. We want it all to stay OP.
As I understand it, it is remaining, the OP is remaining OP, correct?
Is all of it, like the houses that are still offices, and those are the parcels that we're concerned about, because those parcels could be sold, and if it was zoned mixed use, someone could put high density in there.
If it was zoned mixed use, it could be used for the zoning for mixed use. You're correct. But as I understand it, the staff is recommending it's going back to OP.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr. Mayor,
you.
if I may.
Yes, Councilmember DePolito.
I think she may be referring to two of the houses up on 120. Were you referring to there's, I believe, an insurance business as you go up the hill?
It's the other side.
Well,
That's the other side of 120. There are also some private homes between the Kroger and the Just People facility that's at the corner of 120. And there are still some private parcels of land there. And,
between the Kroger and Just People.
And there's also a townhome development right next to the Kroger that is a higher density development. It's townhomes. As we understand, I think it's zoned R3 apartments. It's right next to the Kroger's. And there are some conditions that are already in place for both the Kroger property and those R3 apartments. And we, as a neighborhood, would like those guidelines, those conditions to stay in full force as they are. We don't want them to change.
Mr. Townsend, are those conditions part of Appendix A?
Yes.
So all of the conditions on the Kroger and the townhouse, that development
Was identified as a target lawsuit property, and we brought them forward.
Well, so that'll be brought forward in the UDC.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. Councilman Eichelhart, I want to hear from the audience first. If you have a question from someone that she raised, but as far as general discussion, I want to hold general discussion of this until after the audience.
I'm not going to jump in and talk about nothing, but I have a question based on what was said to her on...
Please proceed.
On a setback, that a 40-foot setback today is not the same as a 20-foot setback with a 8-foot wall, is it?
You are correct, Councilman Eichelhart.
I just think we need to be very careful as to what we are saying and be very clear as to what we are going to allow.
I think it was clear that it was either 40-foot or 20-foot with a wall.
Well, I mean, but an 8-foot wall on your second floor is not going to make any difference to you when something's only 20 feet away versus 40 feet. And it was said, there's been misinformation. I just want to make clear that we're accurate on what we're saying. And same thing on apartments. You know, I've had this discussion many, many times. Right now, apartments would not be allowed on those properties, not legally. They can't even ask for it. So, yes,
Councilman Eichelhart, I would disagree with you because you can ask for a rezoning.
But they're not going to get it. There's no...
And they're not going to get conditional zoning, Councilman Eichelhart.
They could.
They could get conditional zoning, they could get rezoning.
Today, they could not get apartments on that property under our existing code.
If the code allows the code allows a rezoning, and they could get it. So you're wrong.
But they can't, not to an apartment. You cannot. But I just want to make sure we're
Councilmember Eichelhart is wrong.
I am not. Mr. Davidson, would you care to clarify that?
Currently, I don't believe the city allows apartments to be, new apartments to be developed at this time.
Thank you.
The council can approve new apartments with a change in the zoning ordinance, can they not?
Yes, they could.
That's my point.
So you changed the entire zoning ordinance,
And the council has that option today. Who'd like to speak next? We're going to hear from this gentleman, then we'll hear from council. Yes, sir, you're up.
Yes, I'm David Rittenhouse, the president of Wexford Homeowners Association. I want to thank the mayor and city council for the opportunity to speak tonight. Earlier today, I had sent an email to each of you expressing the concerns of the residents of Wexford regarding the possibility of the reinsertion of the RS4 and RS6 designations into the UDC. And since I'd already covered that, I want to move on to another issue that affects Wexford. If I can, I'd like to share as a backdrop the transcript of the what I had spoken to City Council at the council meeting on August 12th of 2012. If I can hand this to each of...
Please do. If you'll hand it to Kay, she'll hand it out.
The issue that night was pertained to the rezoning of what I call the Corley property, which was the property at the intersection of Kent and Etris Roads. And I had spoken then as treasurer for Wexford about the character of the Wexford community, the characteristics of it. As you see, I made the statements about the size of the community. We have actually 445 homes on 245 acres with an average of 1.8 homes per acre and a gross calculation of square footage per lot of 24,444 square feet. As council was actively involved in that whole issue, and you're familiar with it, the outcome was good, actually. As I wrote the email to you folks today, I heard the bulldozers in the background of Paul Corley's development moving forward. And the point of that is that the process worked well. Everybody, to my understanding, was happy with the final outcome. City Council voted that night to, as opposed to granting the request from Paul Corley to rezone that property R3A, Council voted to rezone it R1. And the precedent for that was that Wexford was zoned R1, and we were the largest development contiguous with that property. So with that as a background, and just one point, these were the notes that I read to council that night, so if there are any misspellings or typographical errors, I apologize. They were what I read from, so they're for actually my use. I'm sharing those with you tonight. I did make one addition, these 3 bullet points on page 2, to address the fact that a subdivision has a character that is expensive to maintain. And what I point out here is over the past 2 years that I've been on the Wexford HOA board, we spent $50,000 to provide drainage to protect our number 5 and 6 tennis courts. We spent $70,000 to install a state-of-the-art playground. We're in the process right now of improving and upgrading our pool so that it's safe and it can be used for all the community activities that make a community that are so important to the community. I have several questions. It's my understanding that Wexford has been rezoned from R1 to R2. The question would be, if that is true, I would ask the question why. Next question is...
I'd like to do this.
Yes, sir.
Because I have a short memory. If we can respond to each of your questions, I'm going to give you extra time.
Thank you very much.
So, Brad, if you could respond to each of his questions as they come up, and then perhaps we'll simplify some of the other questions.
Thank you. It remains R1. Thank you very much. My second question pertains to the designation difference between the planned residential development, of which Edenwild and Saddle Creek are. It's my understanding that those provide additional protections for subdivisions that have mixed-sized lots. And I guess I would like, my question is clarification of that.
Usually the reason for a planned residential development designation is there's differing subdivision plats within that might have different setbacks, and they were usually done as part of a approval in Fulton County. So we're bringing those approvals forward and making sure that they are consistent with what they have on the ground today.
And that would pertain to Edenwild because it came in later and was developed after Wexford. Okay. And my last question is, Wexford has just redone our bylaws, and in our bylaws it prohibits subdivision of lots. And my question is, which would prevail? Would the Wexford bylaws prevail, or would the zoning prevail?
Mr. Davidson, if you could respond to that question.
If the people bought the project subject to those bylaws, then those would be, they would be subject to those bylaws. The city wouldn't have anything to do with that. That would just be a legal matter between the homeowners association and that property owner. But the zoning.
Covenants would prevail.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Council.
Yes, Councilmember DiPolito.
Actually, I'd like to ask a related question. As far as PRDs go in general, is the approved site plan on the PRD, does that remain and without changes, or does any change to a PRD from this point forward require a rezoning? Kind of the same question, just asked two different ways.
This is the list of the PRDs which are included within the text of the Unified Development Code. The simple answer is we are pulling forward I'm just going to use Martin's Landing as an example. We're pulling forward all the subdivisions within that designation, as well as their parameters for setbacks, minimum lot setbacks, and lot widths. For that to be amended, my opinion would be that's a rezoning process that would have to come through council, would have to be neighborhood notification for them to understand that something would be changing in their PRD.
So if somebody wanted to, for example, combine 3 lots and they wanted to build townhouses, even though townhouses are permitted in the PRD, that would require a rezoning?
That would be an amendment to the site plan, yes.
So any amendment to the site plan is essentially a rezoning?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like the council to reserve their general questions until after we've heard from the public. If there's a specific question that is about a specific piece of property they bring up, I want to entertain those. But as far as general questions and general comments, I want to wait until after we've heard from the public. Who'd like to speak next? Yes, come forward, please.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Lisa Shaler DeCarbo. I live at 130 South Shore Court, and I'm a member of the Roswell Planning Commission. I looked at the map that we have for the properties that were brought to your attention as far as having questions or potentially an incorrect zoning, and I wanted to add one set of them. I don't have the address numbers, but there are 3 parcels on the east side of Old Scott Road, just above Holcomb Bridge. They were an FCI designation, and FCA, I'm sorry, and I don't know what their underlying zoning was because I cannot get that information via the GIS website.
That's one reason we're making this change.
Jackie's going to pull them up.
Yeah.
They're the blue ones?
The ones in blue, they've
Ones
gone
in
to
light
office.
blue
They've gone to office residential,
Right.
and I'm assuming that if they were one of the residential categories, they would have gone to another one. And I remember this was one that we did talk about in a work session, and it was given OR at the time when staff had been directed to make the plan look like the comprehensive plan, not to match the existing. So that's just another one to take a look at. As far as the site plan for Martin's Landing, I also have some specific questions and corrections on that. You can see on this one, well, it's hard to tell, but that is correct, and the parameters here are not. What's missing is our amenity down on the River Club, and the Winfield Gables subdivision. And what is included here is Woodfield, which is not part of us.
Thank you.
There is one other question I have that's basically a follow-up to what Mr. DiPolito had asked. In Martin's Landing, the whole issue of being able to combine or subdivide the lots is subject to our covenants and bylaws, but to a very specific process. Someone could not do that without getting a vote of every individual member in our subdivision and having 75% agree. One of the things that we had suggested was for our PRD, that language be included in there. We're not expecting the city to enforce that, but I really think anyone who comes to the city for a rezoning request should know that's what they're up against within our particular PRD. Is that a possibility?
David, would it be possible to put a note in there to reference them to some private covenants just for an informational item?
If we're going to do that, I wouldn't recommend doing it just for Martin's Landing. I would say everybody would be subject to their covenants of their neighborhoods if they have them. So,
And that was the alternate.
A general note would be okay, but I wouldn't recommend doing one subdivision.
And that was one of the other suggestions I was going to say, is in the description of what the PRDs are, have something in there.
Well, it wouldn't be just for PRDs. As David's saying, it would be a general statement. And that's, I'm sure that we'll take that under consideration.
And just one more follow-up related to that, and it may be something that goes more to the text than to the map itself, but I wonder, we are bringing the site plans forward on these particular PRDs by way of the illustrations within this book. We also have the situation in a lot of the subdivisions that have not been put into PRDs. There are other cases, I've been told, where we have differing lot sizes. I just wonder if it's not better for every subdivision within Roswell to have their site plan carried forward as part of Appendix A. Just another suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment or have any questions? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Randall Dykema. I have no formal comments at this time. I just have a couple of informal comments, if you'll indulge me. I recently moved to Wexford with my wife, who's pregnant with our first child. I'm a confessed fugitive runaway Yankee from the frigid north of Chicago, who successfully avoided the winter, and am loving the warmth.
Balmy weather we have.
Loving the weather that you have down here in Georgia. We moved about 2 years ago, and recently moved to Roswell, particularly the Wexford subdivision, in October, and we absolutely love it. We originally moved to Midtown. Being a CPA myself and my wife is a lawyer, we're very thorough people, and wanted to move there to get a good idea of the surrounding areas of Atlanta to find out a good place to begin raising our family. And we came across Roswell, and we absolutely fell in love with your town because of the low population and housing density that we found very attractive as opposed to Sandy Springs and Alpharetta. So my only comment to you, ladies and gentlemen, is to please keep that low population density in mind as you're speaking about the UDC. And just wanted to give you an idea of the types of people you're weaning to your beautiful town, particularly from other states. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Saw a hand up over on the left. Come forward, please.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for giving me the time to speak. My parcel is located off of...
If you could give us your name and address.
Yes, sir. Joseph Alzada. It's located on Strickland Road, which is right off of Alpharetta Street, Alpharetta Highway, in a quiet street. And this is the building, if I may put this up. It's a two-story building with the narrower front part of the building faces Strickland Road, and the side part faces Quality Storage. And my parcel is been put with shopfront, and I'm here to ask you to see if it's possible to allow certain types of uses that are part of the light industrial to become part of the shop front for my building, if possible. And those items are, not sure if you can see those. This list comes from the UDC for light manufacturing and light industrial, and there are certain items on this list that I've highlighted in yellow that would foster higher occupancy for my building, and also would probably help other buildings similar to mine. If you like me to read them, but they're available, and I'm more than happy to share it with Mr. Townsend, these items, and really truly believe that some of these items can become part of shop front for a building like mine, and they're correct and proper for use for that building, and if they cannot be part of that shop front, I would like to see if you would allow me, or you would make the change. My question or my request is to make the change for my building to become a commercial corridor. These are currently all the uses that are allowed for my building as commercial highway.
So it's my understanding your property is currently on light industrial or commercial corridor?
It's commercial
C3.
C3.
It's currently C3. Does the C3 allow these industrial uses?
No.
So you...
None of these uses are allowed.
Bothered in.
Just for clarification, I'm trying to get a clear understanding.
Yes, sir.
This council is trying to not change the zoning where the property owner is objecting to it, but not, on the other hand, not trying to expand the uses from what it's currently is substantially. So under C3, are you saying that you would like to go from C3 to shop front, but like to have these in light industrial uses? Is that what I'm hearing?
That would be correct, sir. If I'm grandfathered or not, these are the uses that I'm allowed to have at current period. And
I want to get a clarification on that, Brad, because under current zoning, is he allowed these light manufacturing uses if he's C3? I've tried to get the facts straight before going in, and I'm a little confused now, because if you're C3 and you're referring to light industrial manufacturing as uses you'd like to have, it doesn't seem to be jiving.
My zoning that I'm aware of is commercial highway.
All right, so it's Brad. So the current zoning is C3.
Yes.
And you're now asking for some light industrial uses?
He's asking for an expansion of his use category.
To include some light industrial uses.
Right, to put light industrial, because he believes that some of those are currently allowed under the C3. I don't believe they are.
Well, I first want to try to get the facts straight, and then the council can make a policy decision.
Recycling under C3 is not permitted.
Processing. We're talking about light industrial, not processing. So if you look at some of the items that are under this light industrial, pharmaceutical, medical, it says supply manufacturing, but I agree, assembly would be better.
Well, I think what we need to look at, though, is what's allowed under C3 to see if you're, rather than look, because you're not currently zone light industrial. I understand you'd like some light industrial zoning, but we're trying to see what are you losing under C3. So that's probably where we need to refer to, isn't it?
And the policy decision relates to C3 as a category is really being carved into more appropriate corridor designations in different areas of the city. The shop front is in the Midtown location. Commercial corridor is in the Alpharetta Highway.
Oh, I understand it, but
so
what I wanted to try to focus on, though, is the uses which he currently has under C3, are
He
these
wants
light
it
industrial uses, he wishes to expand those uses from C3?
He's trying to expand it, yes.
If laboratories or offices or other facilities used for research and development, you're saying that that's not allowed on C3?
Jackie has
I have the list up.
The list up
And if-
that's currently in the ordinance.
You could hand me that list. I'll go down the list, or if you could read each item. If you take a look at the list here, or at the table, sorry, I'm
The
too
table
far.
we're looking at is currently allowed under
Current.
C.
This is the current code. They have OP, C1, C2, C3, and I1. I1 is the last column. C3 is the second to last. He had, his first thing he indicated was pharmaceuticals. If you go all the way down here, you have pharmaceuticals and medical supplies. There's an X in the box for C3. That means it's currently not allowed. The second thing he indicated was the research lab and facilities. Research, scientific, and testing labs. There's an X in the box for C3. That means it's currently not allowed. Manufacturing. Go up to the M's.
I would
here.
say more assembly than manufacturing. That would be my
Okay.
request.
Well, we have manufacturing, processing, recycling, and assembling within buildings. There is currently an X in the C3 box. That means it's not allowed in C3. It's a conditional use in I1 today.
Jackie, is there a separate assembling or assembly?
No, it is not in the current code.
It's not
It
in
is
commercial
all
highway?
together with manufacturing.
Okay, thank you.
Jackie, pull up this current zoning map for his location.
I had it up.
Mr. Mayor, while she's looking at that, how do I address the fact that I have a two-story building that is in shopfront where only a single-story building is going to be allowed?
Existing non-conforming.
Your current uses, you can proceed. And this council could choose to expand the zoning uses in shopfront to allow some light industrial. I'm accepting that as your request. And I understand your argument is that it would be appropriate in this area, and council will take that under consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming in tonight. Who'd like to be heard next?
Thank you, Tim.
Hey, Mayor and Council. My name is Vance McGahee, and I live on Meadowwood Drive. We have a concern about the rezoning of the VFW property. I'm sorry, what?
Pull the mic.
Is that better? Yeah. Okay. We have a concern about the rezoning of the VFW property, which is currently, as we understand it, R3, proposed to go to an RX. And it's our understanding that the RX, the residential mixed use, is a higher density. Is that true, that it can be a higher density apartments if it goes from an R3 to the RX?
Now, this is my understanding, and Brad, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Under its current zoning, which includes the Groveway overlay.
Correct.
Right.
Under its current zoning, it could be used for apartments. Under the proposed zoning, it will not be zoned for apartments. Under the proposed zoning, under the map that staff is recommending.
Does that mean that it never could be, if a developer wanted to, he could not even apply for it to have it if it went to the RX? Because that's actually,
Can't not disagree on this, but.
It's a higher density, yeah.
But if you're saying, could a developer apply for rezoning or change the zoning map? They can always apply for rezoning regardless of how we zoning.
I meant as it's worded in RX residential mixed use, does it allow for a higher density if it was asked for?
Brad, if you'll answer the question.
The simple answer to the word density is not used in the UDC.
But as far as uses.
That's a misnomer. They're related to, Jackie can turn this one.
Yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
This is a building type chart. This tells you in which designation, what type of buildings are you able to build. In the RX designation, because we went with the Groveway neighborhood residential designation, which included townhomes, walk-up flats, and stacked flats, as well as a detached house or a carriage house. Those are the building types that you're allowed to build and meet the parameters of each of those building types on an RX piece of property.
Is that not higher than what it would be if it was R3?
I don't know if a term higher
higher
can even
density.
be calculated.
Are the setbacks different also from an R3 to the RX? Because that by itself would allow for a higher
The
density.
setbacks are determined by which building type you pick.
But aren't they less when it's an RX? Aren't the setbacks less than if it's an R3 zoning?
Less than what?
Than if it was like going from a 50 to a 25 or something when it goes to RX, which would allow for more buildings. We just wanted some clarity on that. And
I think the terminology relates to, if I was building this development as a townhouse, would there be more buildings than there are today on it? Absolutely. It's got one building today. If I was building this as a walk-up flat or a stack flat, yes, there would be more buildings on the property, but they would meet the requirements of each building type.
so what you're
And since you are a protected district, whatever protected neighborhood requirements would be required for the development to put in.
You're saying that the Groveway trumps it? Is that what? But my understanding of what you're saying, the Groveway district.
Groveway
would trump
District,
the
as
higher
directed by
density.
the council, was what we were requested to put on the property, yes.
So that would trump the higher density. We're just very concerned that if
I don't think a
or
higher
taller
density
apartment-
is a term. I think
Okay.
you're putting words in
All right.
what the document doesn't have, because it doesn't have a density as a
What about
calculation.
building height? Is that affected by going to RX as opposed to R3?
I think the highest building height is the stacked flat, isn't it, Jackie?
Is it still just 3 stories, or is it?
This is the walk-up flat. It still has a 2.5 stories, 35 feet, and the designation for
The stack flat is 3.5 stories.
the stacked flat would be 3 stories.
And that's approved in the Groveway district. Would it also be, was that height allowed if it's R3? Would that height still be allowed?
The height in R3 is 35 feet.
35 feet. So what's the height of a 3.5 story considered? 45, yeah, another 10 feet. Well, we would just like some consideration to move to at least keep it with the closest, as we understand it, in the overlay district, or the Groveway district, would be the RM3 residential multifamily, as opposed to the current RX designation. Thank you.
So you're asking it to be RM3?
If that is the closest to it, other than what, because the new designation won't be an R3, right? That's gone out, that
Yeah,
is no
won't
longer,
exist.
yeah, that's no longer won't
Won't
exist,
exist.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Wynn.
Mr. Townsend, RX allows townhomes, stacked flats, and protected districts. RM3 allows conditionally apartments, am I correct?
Correct.
And more multifamily, because RM means residential multifamily. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
So the RX, and the RX now is consistent with the Groveway district.
Yes.
They can build that now if they wanted to.
Yes.
What you showed us. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Diamond.
So if we moved it back to RM3, we would essentially just be disallowing detached homes, single family and carriage
Actually,
house.
the RM3 allows detached all the way down
Oh,
to
yeah, we
stacked
shifted,
flat.
I forgot we shifted that.
Everything. RM3 allows each of the building types.
So what is the closest one to the current R3 residential zoning that you have now?
With the Groveway
Groveway?
mixed-use overlay, RX is the
It
closest
is the
category.
closest, but it does allow higher buildings. That's the only drawback, another 10 feet, correct? Or 3.5 stories, is that it, Jackie? Yeah, instead of the 3. Okay. Is that conditional, subject to council approval if someone wanted to build that a higher buildings on that property?
They would have the RX parameters by right, depending on the
Yeah.
building
But
type.
Anything, any of the RMs would require conditional approval. We'd all have to come back to council for that.
Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Townsend, is the 10-foot height, is that correct? The RX has 10 foot, it's 10 foot higher than the Groveway would have allowed? I think there's a little confusion there, because he was saying that he thought there was an additional 10 feet. And I thought we had compared the two, and they were essentially the same for height and other.
I'm sorry, what, Rich?
As far as the RX zoning, a lot of the dimensional characteristics are the same as the Groveway. And what you were saying was you're actually getting 10 feet more height in RX. I just want to clarify what's correct. It may be the same height.
We're looking at Groveway. I believe Groveway was three and a half stories in the neighborhood residential, which this property is covered by. And the other areas were allowed to go to 4 stories.
Groveway was 40 feet.
It was 40 feet.
And RX is?
Depending on the building type, 35 or 2.5.
35 to 45 potential? Is there a max height in RX?
The max height would be what's set on the map, and that's currently a 3-story designation. Anything that doesn't have a number on it is given a max height of 3 stories.
Do the setbacks, what is the setback, is it according to the different type that's built? Is that what you're saying?
According to building type, yes.
To building type. So the minimum it could be will be what? Depending on the building type?
Plans, yeah.
Okay.
We're going through a bunch of gyrations.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no hand, yes, sir, come forward, please.
Yes, Eric Schumacher, 145 Prospect Street. This is a mailing that many of us in Roswell received with our utility bill. I believe it was back in August. I remember it because it told me that a large section of the city was going to be unchanged, and that if I was a single-family homeowner, I had nothing to worry about. That nothing is going to affect my property, my house, my home, essentially. I'd like to understand at this point in time how we've gone about changing the entire city, right? So the areas that are in white here are marked as unchanged, but we are actually changing them now. And within the zoning code itself, we're also affecting each of those zoning categories as well. So I spoke at the last meeting where we talked about the code and how I wasn't able to build what I wanted to build under the UDC, but I could today. And, you know, after that meeting, you know, I had some interactions with Brad and staff, and it is in fact true. I would not be able to do certain things under the UDC as I am today. Even though this map is saying I'm unchanged, I know that we're changing some of our zoning categories in name, but as you can see on this mailing that went out to everybody, it says that the things in green are simply changing in name. So how have we gone from this to where we're at now without really communicating clearly to everybody in Roswell? I think it's an ethical issue. We might have a legal gray area here when we start talking about what does it mean to affect somebody's home. But ethically speaking, we've come a long way from not changing people's properties and affecting their property and their neighborhood to actually changing a lot of things that are going to affect how they use their property, what they can do on their property, what's being built around their property, etc. So I'd like to understand today how we can send this communication and not follow it up with, oh yeah, actually, we've had a lot of meetings since, we've changed our minds. You will be affected now. You know, I'm concerned because this communication basically prevented a lot of people from engaging on this project. You know, we've had a lot of meetings, there's been a lot of discussions, but in general, when you tell everybody explicitly that nothing is going to change, and it is changing, I think this is a big problem. So I'd like to hear from you, Jerry, about this ethical issue around not communicating to people that things are actually changing. On the topic of the civic zoning, I don't think the civic zoning is actually protecting some of our historic properties. I think we need to look at that. I've brought this up with Brad previously, but we've got some historic properties in town that have been marked as civic, but those are not in a protected class. So we either need to look at protecting civic and then giving an option to unprotect it when there are developments around those properties, or splitting them out and making a new class to protect those historic properties. Further, there aren't any districts on the UDC map itself. We talk about districts in the UDC code, but we haven't explicitly put them on the map. So people really don't know what could go up next to their home. There aren't any rules around, we can't put a nodes and corridor zone right next to a residential zone. So I believe that we need to talk about and put in the UDC some designation of where we're actually seeing those districts so that people can predict and make business choices around the properties they purchase and what's going to be happening in their neighborhoods. Without those districts, I think a lot of people are concerned that the property next door might go to something commercial when today it's more or less a residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. You may have a seat. I'd first like to respond. Brad, go back over the list of how many public hearings we've had. I think the question was raised, did we communicate to the public what we're doing here tonight? And I think the record, if you look at the number of public hearings, it reflect the lengthy efforts what this council has gone to be clear and transparent as what we're doing. I think you had that list earlier with your presentation.
We've had approximately with this meeting and the first hearing for the text, 53 meetings in some form or fashion. We've had, as I said before, at least 19 work sessions with just mayor and council, multiple meetings going to homeowners associations, multiple hearings before the planning commission. There are also a hearing before each and every board that we deal with that looks at anything from a land use standpoint. The notice that we had multiple notices that went out. We had a notice that went out to those property owners where, from staff's perspective, we were making any kind of really drastic or significant change in their zoning. We had the utility bill inserts, and we've had a notice that we followed back up with those property owners in Parkway Village, and I believe there was another area, and then we mailed to each and every property owner. So we've tried to put out as many notices as possible and to have as many opportunities as possible for every property owner to have some input into the process.
Councilman Price, do you have a specific question, not a general question?
I was just going to ask if I could have a copy of that document that Mr. Schumacher had, and perhaps the rest of the council might want to have it too. I was particularly wanting, I couldn't tell from the picture, but up in the area of the very farthest northwest of Roswell, what does it show any change there or not? Way up in the corner. Anyway, it's kind of cut off there, so I can't read it. If somebody could make copies of that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Be glad to. Does anyone else wish to speak or have any comments or questions? Public hearing is closed. This time we'll hear comments and questions from council before we entertain a motion. Any comments or questions before we entertain a motion? Do we have is that a comment or question?
That's a comment. We do have a list here of potential shifts. Most of it is exactly that, going back to, where we may have missed, and don't let the numbers scare you. There's a lot of them that are in a block that look like a lot of pieces, but it's not. I'm comfortable with going through these and making those part of the first reading and then having that be the public discussion, but I'm open to discuss that as well, how you want to go about it.
If you wish to make a motion and incorporate all these changes, we can, or you can make the motion, or you can discuss these changes and then make the motion. It's your motion to make.
All right, well, I guess I'd like to at least have Brad review, if he's had a chance, what these are, and if there's recommendations that that first list of suggestions that have the asterisk, if there's some problematic ones for you in that list, then we probably need to discuss the others in our work session. But, a lot of it's pretty cut and dried, so what do you think? I mean, have you had a chance to go through that spreadsheet?
Preliminarily,
Okay.
I can't
well,
say.
And if that's the case, we can
Right.
kind of go back on that. But I see a few in here that I know we talked about, and some of these are on this list you're showing right now,
Right.
so maybe that's the way to go.
We're going to try and switch back and forth. We're going to keep the list up, but I think it serves the council and the public best if we pull up the location on the map and maybe even an aerial at the time when we're discussing that piece of property, so at least they see the context of what we're dealing with. So let's pull up the VFW site. Are we changing that to RX? Is it the council direction to leave it RX as proposed?
Council may have differences of opinion on this, council. I want to start with Nancy Diamond, who would be making the motion, and then get her comments, and then and open it up to her. But I wanted to try to get her to fashion a motion,
okay,
and then the council can respond to it.
I can do that on what we have here. I guess there's a few areas where we don't have anything. Does that mean staff hasn't weighed in, doesn't have an opinion, isn't going to take a position? How does that? Because if we want to talk about it, we can talk about it, but.
The ones that staff did not respond to, I think, Rich, this was our discussion of changing CH to CX.
That's the north side.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Mr. Townsend, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but could you let us know who brought these changes to your attention?
Okay. The ones in yellow.
Because it's in question.
Okay. The ones in the blue area were bought by Councilman DiPolito in our preliminary discussions. We provided him with a 33,000 spreadsheet parcel, and he actually did some carving up and changing and really drilled down into it really tight. The one on the bottom, the purple, was discussed by Councilmember Price at our meeting of about 3.5 hours last Thursday. So those were the discussions.
I had one on Hembry Road. Is that not reflected?
I think that one is. Which one is that?
I think that was one we had captured on the other one, but we can.
Brad, what are the yellow ones?
This one. The yellow ones were ones that council brought up in some manner related to we didn't resolve the VFW location. The land lot 68 was a John Bridges discussion. He brought that up. Sorry.
That's not on the copy that they have, the yellow ones.
The copy they have isn't yellow?
Does not include the yellow ones. That's why I'm asking.
Right. Sorry. I brought them forward from prior discussions. I'm trying to track a few things. The other was the Goulding Place, and I think the second one was the one that was brought up by the gentleman at the text meeting that's north of the spur, next to Martin's Landing, next to the it was called the Hawthorne. He brought that one up. Then we had the Goulding discussion. The Caruths have been communicating with myself and Councilman Diamond about their issues. And I believe number 4 was John Bridges. He originally wanted ag, then he went back and we put RS30 on those. So those were the 4 that I brought up there. Sorry you don't have that in front of you. The discussions of number 5 in the blue, this was brought up by Councilman DiPolito of redesignating to a commercial mixed-use property north of Mansell that is pretty much a shopping center on between Alpharetta Highway and Howes that really needs some kickstart to redevelop. Jackie's showing you the current aerial. It's all C3 or OP in that location. And what she's bringing up is the current map where we have it designated as CH with a 4-story designation. Councilman DiPolito is showing or has proposed that it would go to a CX, which the area he's talking about is here. You have that location. You want me to put it back to the general map?
Yeah, and the rationale for that is their commercial highway is primarily our commercial heavy, is primarily our automobile district, for lack of a better term. And we have commercial mixed use on the south side of Mansell Road. It pretty much goes up to that edge. So rather than make the road the dividing line, it seemed to me it would make more sense to have commercial mixed use, which gives all of those shopping centers essentially the uses they have today, but it makes the overall theme consistent on both sides of the road, which I thought was appropriate. One thing that occurred, I made the adjustment on my spreadsheet after our conversation, is the corner of Howes Road and Howes Way. The hard corner there is currently OP, and on the north side you have office, then there's townhouses on another corner, there's a church on the other corner. So I was suggesting that since there's a blend of OP and C3 on that corner, make it NX, which would be a little bit more neighborhood friendly given the context. So that upper corner of, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
But then we're dividing a parcel.
No, it's not. It's actually 2 different parcels.
Okay.
That large square below what Brad just drew, that's the shopping center that's there.
Okay.
So if that was CX, then there's vacant land right now, and it's partially bounded by office zoning.
It's got a house on it that a maintenance company uses, and it's back behind the Jackson Acura.
But it would make more sense for that, given the context, for that to be NX, which is still a mixed-use, commercial use, but it's at a less intense scale.
Right. The, numbers 9 and 10 are on Marietta Highway 120. Currently an E2 designation. Staff has recommended they go to an RS9 to be consistent with the frontage on 120. We did reach out. It's mostly why the Inverness people are actually even here tonight. We reached out to their homeowners association and discussed this issue. And as they mentioned in their presentation, not really having a concern, then felt that RS9 was appropriate in those locations, but we're concerned with the office uses on the other side of Highway 20. So staff would recommend it stay RS9.
This was my comment, so I'd like to comment on that. I don't disagree from a planning standpoint that RS9 may be appropriate on that frontage, but it's currently zoned E2, so I think it needs to be zoned E2 for purposes of the map. And if somebody wants to come in for RS9, we can look at it and have a public hearing and discuss it at that point. So philosophically, I don't disagree with you from a planning standpoint, but I'd like to see it before we zone it that way.
We understand. Mayor.
Councilmember Price.
Going back to that list, please. On the number 6, I know that's one specific property, but there are a number of them on that same road, because those are medical office buildings across from the hospital.
Right.
And I don't know what L595 is, but
It's the whole land lot area that encompasses all those.
Pull it up.
can we look at it, please?
See, that's the whole land lot, so it's the OPs that are included in that, which we would make consistent to an OP designation.
But just those?
Yep, the ones that are in that land lot.
Well, actually, the two that I'm concerned about are the two little vertical rectangles to the right of the OP, which had an OP conditional.
No, they don't. They have an LIL.
Well, it was office, it's a combination. I've got the sheet, I've got the letter that you sent me.
Okay.
So it did have an office designation.
Can we pull up the current zoning on that?
That is the current zoning map.
Well, in any case, they're at the moment, they're medical office buildings, but they did have a light industrial office combination. It sounded like an odd combination. I was sort of surprised, but in any case,
Would you request them all to go to OP?
not necessarily, because I'm not sure what the uses are going to be on OP now. And gosh, right now I can put in an exotic dance place because it's adult businesses are zoned there. So why would I give that up?
I don't know, ma'am.
I mean, this is the absurdity of the whole thing. They're medical office buildings. We don't want to lose that. On the other hand, if somebody's going to come and bulldoze everything around it, we'd like to have the option to go with the flow. I don't want to give up any rights I have currently. And the letter said I wouldn't, but I know that if it goes to straight IL, which you're saying now it doesn't have to, but I haven't talked to everybody, that also owns it. And those other buildings along there, I don't know if they appreciate what may or may not be happening to them, and whether or not they want to express their concerns that, for instance, if their building burns down, it can't be utilized for their purpose that would now be non-conforming. So there are huge issues here. Maybe not everybody is interested in having it OP. Maybe they want an exotic
Well,
dance.
can I ask you a couple of questions? What is the property currently zoned?
Well, I have a disagreement with Brad. I'm telling him what he said in the letter, and he's saying that's not it, so.
Well, the letter may have been incorrect. The question is not what did the letter say, but do we know what the property is currently
How
zoned? the
many
property in
Roswell
question?
residents got letters that were incorrect?
I could not tell you that. All I know is we've had meeting after meeting in which we have done our very best to get accurate information out. Can I tell you that it's 100% accurate? I didn't read every letter and I didn't double check it, so I couldn't answer that question. But on this specific piece, the question now is, what is it currently zoned? Not what the letter said, but what is it currently zoned?
Are we talking these two pieces of property, Councilman Price?
Well, there's several, yeah, several in the gray and several in the blue.
Well, those in the blue appear to be zoned OP conditional, and those in the gray appear to be light industrial conditional.
Correct.
Is
Right.
that?
I only got the letter, though, for the gray ones.
Okay.
So I'm trying now that we know what they are currently zoned, and how are they proposed to be zoned?
Well, they're conditional, so there were some conditions on it.
Are those conditions being carried forward?
I have no idea.
No, well, I understand you have no idea. I'm asking staff if they know.
Well, I just expressed my concern, and I've been told it's been fixed. I don't know what being fixed means.
I think the objective and directive from council is to make it what it has today. So if it was zoned conditionally, we're bringing forward conditions from 2000 to today and site plans that would approve those. So if it was prior to then, those conditions are not being brought forward.
That's the first I've heard of that. So I suspect.
I think that's been pretty consistent through this whole process.
No, but as relates to my property, no, I didn't know that.
Well, now we know.
Okay.
Well, I'll bet there are a lot of residents that don't even know what they don't know.
I am positive
And I
that
can't
there are a
help
lot
them
of
to
residents
know
who
what they
don't
don't
know
know,
what they
ma'am.
don't know. I cannot tell you that that's not true. And there are probably even more that are unaffected.
Correct.
And don't care because they're unaffected. I being one of those.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I thought our discussion was to resolve this was that the office uses could be put in light industrial, and that would pretty much resolve the question. Is that not what we?
That was one of the policy decisions that was brought up with discussions with Councilmember Price as to if you want to expand the uses in the IL designation to make it more consistent with an office type of use, that would be a policy decision of council.
And that's on the list for our work session?
Correct.
Thank you.
That's not a map change, that would be a
Correct.
text change.
That's a text change because you're changing the use table. But it does affect what they're able to do in the map.
It would affect every
I-1.
Every I-1.
Industrial, right.
Councilman Price, any other questions? What we're trying to do here is give direction to a Councilmember Diamond to see if she can make a motion tonight.
Can I see?
Your hand is up, you may
Can I see if I
speak.
can run through and kind of summarize some of this? Like the number one, the 1850 Woodstock, that's the Rivercliff property that is zoned for a church but isn't actually a church yet, that we're
Brad,
putting
will you put
Civic
the list
on.
back up?
Yeah, the blue, it's in blue. Okay, up a little further. Okay, so just so we all know where everybody is. 'Cause- Yes. 1850 Woodstock, was that Rivercliff or is that a different one? Oh, as you can see from Holcomb Bridge, right there.
111 Hembry?
1100.
1100 Hembry? habitat?
Oh. Yeah, let's check on that one. I want to get to the ones that are just obvious. Not 250, we can look at that.
In UP. No, I'm looking at something else.
Gardens of Roswell?
It was apartments.
49.
R3? RM3?
249, okay.
And 249 is an assisted living facility. I don't know what the underlying zoning is.
We have it. Which one is that?
Yeah.
49.
We can look that up, but it's OP would work.
Yeah, let's check on that. Number 251, the 410, the 400 block of Old Holcomb Bridge Road. It's presently R3. We proposed RM3. Is it already existing townhomes?
There's 4 townhouses. I believe they're townhouses on Old Holcomb Bridge Road as you
Oh, that's what I
enter
thought you were
Old
talking
Holcomb
about.
Bridge on
the
the left.
Habitat. Yeah, that's not the Habitat townhomes?
I don't know what they are.
So those RTH for those townhouses?
And then Maxwell Road. Yeah, let's talk about those.
Well, 254, I mean, you've got 1.3 acres.
Yeah, that can't be right.
That can't be an individual townhouse.
Yeah, let's look at that block
Yeah.
again, just to be sure.
Put an
Yeah, that's
asterisk.
fine.
Arden Place is already built, correct?
Yes.
And how do we arrive at RS4?
In UP.
Smallest lot size being over 4,000 square feet.
I think they're
But
all.
not- But
they're
not all of the existing ones exceeding 6,000 square feet.
They are all over 6, except for one, I think, is 3 1,000ths of an acre short of being 6,000 feet, which could easily be a surveying error. So in my mind, it's RS6.
I'm fine with putting it on there for this
If you
reading.
round it up, it's 6,000.
Well, and, you know, it's already on the ground. It's not like we're,
So do you want to make them RS6?
yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yes, please.
Okay. You don't need the dash, Jack. That's all right. You go down,
Through 283.
right.
Chattahoochee Street, 284. We have a street number.
We'll check on that one.
Yeah, let's check on that, because if it's
They don't-
1.9 acres, I'm not sure where
Yeah.
RS9 comes into play. Or 6 either. 285 Sherburne Drive, RS9. Is that the same thing? Or, well, it was Fulton County annexed. It's already built.
I thought I checked the acreages on those, and I thought they all qualified as 12,000 square foot units.
Okay. I can check on those.
Do you think most of them are over 12, Rich?
I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with just a small percentage that would be non-conforming if we made it 12?
Yeah, I'm not sure there were any. I think they were all over 12.
Okay.
But we can quickly verify that.
We're checking to make sure they're all over 12. Or just what number's less than 12, so we have an
Yeah.
understanding.
We can do that when we're talking later. The Marietta Highway Group, that is E2, to go back to E2, which is not E2 anymore, it's,
So we're taking those back to E2? Okay.
RS 30.
RS 30.
And that goes to, well, yeah, that goes down to number 352. And then we have the same thing, R1, leaving it R1, or going to RS 18,
Okay.
down to $446.
RS 18. All the R1s, RS 18.
To what number?
Old Alabama Road, are those? Oh, sorry. Yep, so we need to keep.
You want the Eves Road ones to go to RS 18 too?
What number is that? Oh, yes. Yeah, the R1, straight R1. So down to 446.
46?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, you.
I think at that point I will stop so we can go back and make sure, and we can start answering questions once we have a chance to review it.
Are you close to a motion?
I am. Do you want me to start?
Everyone's attention, we can have a motion.
Everybody wake up. Okay. I think I did. This is a motion to approve first reading of the ordinance to create a unified development code official zoning map for the City of Roswell, as read with the following amendments. And can I quote the numbers?
You can incorporate this map, David, I presume? Yes. This sketch,
Okay.
but you need to have a reference to it.
So reference the changes that we've just discussed? Do I need to list them?
You want to include.
You're going to have to be specific.
Okay, I can do that. If I can get the freeze paint to come off of this thing. Freeze, okay. All right, of the numbers 1 through,
So let's first identify the spreadsheet you're working from.
okay,
Microphone, please.
If you need to, if you're going to be referencing a spreadsheet, let's see if we can identify the spreadsheet for the record.
all right. What do we call it? Well, I renamed it, so I don't know what you called it.
I have it labeled zoning map changes, questions, with today's date, 1/27/2014.
Okay. I'd like to add to the motion amendments 1 through 446, but for 15 and 16, 32, 37 through 45. '98, '99, 100. '177, 178, 179, 198, 222 through 226, 244 through 256, 284, 285, actually, we took that all the way through, excepting 284 through 345. These are all together. That's it. That is my motion.
The motion by Councilmember Diamond with the amendments from the spreadsheet she's just listed. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. At this time, I'll entertain questions and comments. Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Diamond, I'm sorry, does that include the two changes OP south of Inverness on south of 120 that they talked about?
Yes, those were on the list.
Okay, and the VFW and Scott Road parcels. We had Scott Road parcels on this list here, number 11. And Councilmember DiPolito didn't know if that was part of the one that you just went through. It was not?
I don't think those Scott Road parcels.
Yes, it's changed to RS6 to RS9. So I just want to make sure that, you know, if these are incorporated in this listing, but want to make sure if this, about this one also.
Okay.
So do you remember which one that was?
Do you know what parcels those are? Mr. Townsend?
Yeah, which ones are they, Jackie?
Discussions about Scott Road have been two areas. One has been the discussion of these three that are residential that are actually going to OR. I think, Rich, your discussion has been these up here, which there's a real small one on the end. I think that's why we made it RS6. But they could actually go RS9 probably, because there has to be some type of combination to develop anything in there. So do you want to leave these three OR and have this go to RS9?
Those three have been on my list 3 times, have never shown up anywhere, that they should not change. It's residential.
They're currently zoned as what? Agricultural?
You think these are ag, Jackie?
Keep them the same, I would say.
AG 43?
Sounds good to me.
If that's what they're zoned.
Jackie doesn't think they're an acre in size. They look big.
I think they are, actually. Well, depends on which of the many lists you look at. Fulton County's website shows it to be all over 1 acre.
Can we get like a report on that so we can look at it
Okay.
and have it?
Okay, are
So
we,
how does it stand on this motion?
that's what I was going to ask. The ones that were in the
We're-
RS9 or RS6,
We're going to change these to RS9.
okay, but then the other three we're going to look at?
The other three we're going to put asterisks on and discuss.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to add those parcels, if we could, on the Scott Road parcels from RS6 to RS9.
Does that require an amendment?
That's my amendment to her motion, to Councilmember Diamond's motion.
Councilmember Diamond, do you accept that change?
Yes, sir.
Councilmember DiPolito, you accept that change? Yes, sir. Stands as amended. We're entertaining questions and comments. Yes.
So on this list that has the yellow on top, the blue in the middle, and the purple on the bottom, are those all included or not? You got one too, that's good.
We discussed the VFW.
That's not a change though, right? We had it
No.
at RX?
We had that as RX. This was the change that was requested by the property next to Martin's Landing. Goulding.
These changes are included,
That one wasn't.
or
I don't
lack of
believe.
changes.
How about you just say, reference this piece of paper?
Well, I've got, you need to reference whether it was,
So this one's in, and did we discuss which way we're going to deal
I
with
thought
Goulding?
Goulding Place was already DR, were they not? We went back and circled back to make sure they understood
Right.
all that that meant.
So that's
but I think
DR.
it's the same.
RS30. This one was included in the motion.
I don't think that one was.
This, I think this one was. Well, this one will be an asterisk.
Nope, you're right, it's there.
Can we go back to number 4, please?
Okay.
What was the reason for reducing the lot size?
Request by the property owner.
But what was it before?
It's Fulton County, right? That's
It was
AG1.
So
So why are we changing it to RS30 based
Yeah, I
on
think
a
we need-
request?
But sometimes we take it to what it is, sometimes we don't.
Well, is
If
it
you
the
want,
size
you
that
just
can
ask
be
for it.
ag still?
Yeah, if they wanted to make a zoning change.
No, he has one of the parcels that's less than an acre.
Yeah, one of them is.
I mean, if it fits ag, we need to leave it. If it doesn't,
It doesn't
that's a
meet
different
ag.
story.
He's got 2 or 3 parcels.
Well, let's leave that one out for now, and
Okay.
that's,
If I may, the 3 parcels Councilmember Eichelhardt mentioned on Old Scott Road are all over an acre, according to the GIS website and the Fulton County website. So if you choose to make those 3 parcels on the corner of Old Scott Road and Holcomb Bridge Road, AG 43, they do meet the requirement.
okay. I'm fine with that. Kent, do you want to amend it to do that?
That's what I've actually brought that up 3 or 4 times. I don't
Okay.
know what gets on a list and what doesn't.
All right.
all right, do you accept that change?
Yes.
Councilmember Diamond accepts the change. Rich, do you accept that change? Stands changed in the motion.
Norcross Street. I think that one was on. I think that one was on the list. Colonial Park was on the list. This was on the list.
Norcross Street was still a question mark.
Okay. Land Lot 559 is, well, Councilmember Price brought up. I don't know that if they were OP before, they were to stay OP.
Where I-1 office to business.
So you're going to verify what the actual zone?
Yeah,
Yes.
you said there was a discrepancy, but on the letter it says I-1 Office and Business Distribution District.
Okay, so we can go back and work on that one.
Okay?
Number 7. Is that Grimes Bridge?
CX and NX. Was that on the list?
I don't know what the street address is. GBR, Grimes Bridge Road? What is GBR?
I think that was next to the Swift School, right?
That was down there at the Swift School?
Next to it.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about that.
Okay. Wasn't number 8 on the list?
Mm-hmm.
9 and 10 were on the list.
Mm-hmm. 11 was an amendment.
Yep, on the list. These are 3 parcels down Chattahoochee Street. It should be RS 12.
What are the addresses? Do we have? Oh, I see.
403, 413.
Should be what? Townhouse?
403 Chattahoochee Street.
Right. Should be
It's like the-
RS 12?
Yeah, it's
They were,
the parcels that didn't get included in the little rezoning you did, you know, the homes that
Oh,
were
okay,
left out
right.
front, need to be RS 12.
Okay. I'd like to make that amendment.
What I want to do is go through this whole list, and let's just do it top to bottom issue, again, because we've sort of stretched this out.
And I gotta come up with
You
this.
read that, you incorporated the previous list, made those changes, let's go through this whole list and then do it top to bottom.
Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Yes, I have those. Okay.
Number 13, staff's going to check on the conservation on Crossville.
Yeah.
And the one that can't be seen very well in the purple, this is changing the request of Councilmember Price. The areas up here, areas down here.
Up in the left upper corner, way over to the left, there. That parcel. And then down below it,
There.
And underneath. Excuse me. Oh, you already got it, okay. Oh, and the little boxy thing. That one.
So what is the request on these parcels?
That they have their original zone, that they have their original zoning, they're not reduced in the minimum lot size.
Well, we need to know specifically what that that category would be under the current motion. Do we know?
Apparently, it was Fulton County annexed. It's greater than 1 lot, greater than 1 acre, and we're putting it at R30. So I would recommend it be ag, but
With the AG 40?
43.
43 is what your request is?
yes.
Those that Brad just circled, how does that stand with the motion, Nancy, who made the motion?
And that we're sure they're all meet the minimum? Or do we need to
Yes.
go back on it? Okay.
So that's consistent with the existing zoning?
Yes.
So all those parcels will go AG 43.
Let's do this. I think we've covered the whole list. Put your list back up there, and I will hear from Nancy what her motion is on that list.
Looks like it. All right. My motion is to approve first reading of the UDC map for the
You've
Roswell.
already listed the previous list, which you incorporated. Let's talk about this list, what changes you're going to go on this one.
Okay.
I don't need the whole motion, but I need
Just the changes off the colored sheet.
Changes off this list, are there any changes off this list, and what are they?
All right, I need help on this because I was scribbling back and forth. We are, I think we incorporated number 1 on the blue, did we not? Can I reference the things that Brad has checked on this blue sheet? Would that do it?
No.
No, okay.
As long as it goes in the record, but
Yeah. Golden Place, these were all questions. That one we did, that one we did. Those are question marks. I'm looking to see what we haven't done. I didn't differentiate between what we've done and what we checked off here, so Nesbit. Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to go with. The checks are ones that we covered in the other one, or?
Yes.
Okay. And number 1, we've already done, so it's not a change. Correct? Number 1 in the yellow?
Right.
Number 2,
We've done.
that's not a change.
no.
Plus, next to Martin's Landing, north of the Shirley property.
And we decided to do that? Why did we decide to do that?
That's what its current R5.
Oh, okay. Okay, number 2 in the yellow, AG 43 to RS 18.
Is that already in the first reading?
No.
That would be, an
Yes, we're
additional
adding-
change to the first.
Right, we're adding number 2 in the yellow.
Adding
landlocked
number 2 in yellow to the
678.
first reading.
We are not adding the next 2. Number 1 was in there, number 2 was in there. Number 3 we're still working on.
Which means you're not adding it at this
Right,
time.
right. Number 4,
It's already in there, 5's already in there.
I don't know that, what else are we adding?
11, number 11, number 12.
So we're just adding 11 and 12?
You're adding 11, 12, so you're adding 2, 4, 11, and 12, is that what we're adding?
14, I think we're going to get a list and make sure they all,
Well, for the first reading, are we adding it?
okay, yes.
All right, so you're adding 2, 4, 11, 12, 14 to the first reading, and this list, how are we identifying this list? Brad's list?
This list is my hand.
The Easter
Write
egg.
your name on it and put a date on it.
There is no number 14.
The purple. And that is Brad's list of 127. All
We
right,
will come
that
back
is
with
the
a
motion.
Yes, we will come back
Rich,
with a
is that-
shiny version that everybody will be able to.
Is that
reference.
acceptable, Rich? So we have a motion and a second. We're now up for council comments. Councilmember Eichelhardt.
Well, as I emailed earlier today, I had a list as well, but most of them I think were in Rich's list, but I haven't gone through the whole thing to see. I know there are a couple that weren't, but I also did have some additional things. But as a couple weeks ago, the questions have been out there throughout the entire time, so if you weren't listening, I don't know how you missed it. It's not like they were sprung, same thing. So I don't know, several are specific to individual properties, others are more general across the board. We finally hit Old Scott, again, after 3 times I put it on a list. Let me just go to the broad ones, because it's height. And we have said tonight, I wrote it down here, that we're trying to keep the things that people have, or keep it as close as possible to things that people have, and not give additional rights, not giving extra rights. But when you look at the map, we've got through the industrial section, through Holcomb Bridge in 92, the whole, what used to be C3, many of the apartments are higher than what they are today. So the industrial in the corner of Holcomb Bridge 92 is all 6. Currently they are C3 40 feet. Apartments, there are any ones that have 4 on the number. They are now at currently 45 feet, which would be 3.5 on the normal UDC. And so why are we putting 4? And then Riverwalk, which is the townhomes to the left of Chattahoochee, what's now, whatever they call it, the Chattahoochee Landing, the ones that are on where Harry Geisinger lives. It says 5 on RTH. I've never seen a 5-story townhome.
Is that that's Chattahoochee Landing, is it?
Well,
not?
that's a separate one, but the one where Harry
Okay.
lives is the condos next to him. I think it's called Riverwalk.
Okay.
It says RTH 5. I've never seen a 5-story townhome. And then Chattahoochee Lane is another one where currently they are also whatever they are, I don't have it in my head right on, that's on my list, but it's to be 5, which if we do that, that is the entrance to the city. You would have a 5-story building right where we currently have 3 along, could be across that whole wall as you come into the city of Roswell. Is that what we really want? And you could actually add 2 to that. So, you know, that's the overall broad question. Why are we not keeping the same things in terms of height as we are in terms of zoning? Because it grants additional rights.
We've gone through, I thought we had gotten back to everything was the same as it was before. I know there's a difference between the measurement of the height and the number of stories, but.
This is probably a text question, not that, I'm not saying it's not appropriate to bring it up tonight, but it's probably be.
It's on the map as 6.
Yeah, we have it listed on the map.
Or
We
anywhere I just
we don't
brought
have a
up are all
spreadsheet
on the
somewhere
map,
that shows
specifically
what
with
the height
numbers
of
on them.
everything is, do we? Do we have, I mean, that doesn't exist as it is. What the height of any of our.
Brad, anything you can add to help this council?
Or maybe we could show a listing at our next work session of the ones that are more than 3 stories and how we came to that.
It's pretty much anywhere on the map that has a number on it.
Yeah, but, yeah, because everything else is 3, so. When we moved everything back, how did we go about doing that? When we went back to where we were originally? Can we take that data and make that into a report that shows how we arrived at what we have here?
I guess I'm trying to think back of when some of the height discussions were in work sessions and the council putting, specific heights around this intersection. We moved these back to the 7 stories because that's what's in the OCMS and approved on their site plan. This is going up because of the commercial heavy, and the industrial is just saying, how do you get it to redevelop? I thought this was matching the existing down there next to the river. So we can check on that height.
But I did go through, you're more than welcome obviously to check, but I've checked all these and it doesn't match the existing. And I don't totally disagree frankly on the commercial heavy, they're making it 4, but if we're gonna follow the same idea throughout, that it needs to be as close as possible to what it is today, then that's what it needs to be everywhere.
Other comments?
I got 2 more if you'd like. Let me hit the easy one. The Chattahoochee Landing, I think, is also important because if we are going to change its zoning to allow it, right now it's proposed to be RX. That is only residential. It's mixed use, but it's only residential. If we really want to get something changed in there, is that not the one place we might actually want to have restaurants and things that could be on the river? So under what we're proposing, you could not do that. It can only be residential. So we should consider that, But that's something, but it's related to being the ER exit now. So my last one is actually, I don't have specific ones. I will use Grace Hill as an example. And you just brought it up on Sherburne. There are numerous locations throughout the city and subdivisions where we have chosen to take the lowest common denominator on the smallest size lot and then reduced all of the other lots within that subdivision to be that lower number. But in the back side of this, as an example, there could be a 2-acre lot, but we've now rezoned it to RS9. You can come in there and put 9,000 square foot lots on those 2 acres that now currently have one house. I just think that's wrong. So we've told, and we've had, Grace Hill is one in particular because those folks have been several times, and we've told them, no, we're not going to split the subdivisions like that. And if there are cases where it jumps around and there are all kinds of different mixes in between, that may make sense. But in the places where, as we just said for Sherburne, if there's only a few of them that are smaller, then we shouldn't take the whole thing down. Those are ones I'm aware of. Grace Hill is one just because someone came to us, one of the property owners, but I'm sure there are others. But that is a much broader question, but we kind of answered it tonight with Sherburne. But those are my specific changes. I do have some others that I won't go through right now because I'm not sure what's on Rich's list. I did go through a number and found that they were already on there. But I will make an overall comment that I understand that moving forward and all that, and that's great. But we're not going to be ready for this in 2 weeks. At least I can't imagine that we could. We can't even get the right answer what we just went through 2 minutes later. I think it's unconscionable to move forward without getting more things secured.
Councilmember Price.
I also had a question regarding at the very northwest tip that abuts Arnold Mill Road, which appears to be, I guess it's an NX. Well, is that considered a corridor? Is that an annex up there? What is?
Fulton County commercial existing.
I'm sorry, it was already commercial?
It was already Fulton County's commercially zoned when we annexed it in.
That's not what it looks like on the current map.
Map show FCA.
Property was zoned commercial, having worked in Fulton County for over 11 years and dealt with that. Across from the Chadwick landfill, that property was zoned commercial.
And is that how it shows on our map?
It doesn't show on our, it shows on our map as FCA because when Roswell annexed property from Fulton County, you did not apply a comparable zoning designation in Roswell. You applied FCA with the understanding that we would go by the underlying zoning.
But I thought the underlying zoning showed on our maps.
No, ma'am.
All right, so it was commercial when we took it in?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments before we take a vote?
Yeah.
Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you. I just had a follow-up comment on the height. I guess the height has always kind of confused me a little bit why we have that at all on the map, because the height is really dictated by the height within the zoning. So I would think that the only time we would have heights listed on the map is when there is an exception in the existing that exceeds what's in the zoning. So for example, all of the industrial that we have in there, I don't know why we have a height associated with it, because there's a height under the current zoning, so that should really govern. So in the few places where we had some OCMS zoning where we had 7 stories, I understand those exceptions, but I would think everywhere else it would just be whatever we've determined is adequate height for that particular district. That's, I guess I'm saying I agree with Kent. I'd like to revisit the height issue.
Well, with the understanding, the way the text is actually written, height is established by each district for each location. And that's why a CX where the standard designation may have a 3-story in a majority of spots, but in particular locations, council could choose the CX to be 6 stories a night. And that's actually what's on the map is what council chose, to put a CX at 6 stories.
Well, I don't know that council chose that. I think that was presented to us, and we never really.
Yeah, we went and circled stuff.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess getting back to the theme of the night of trying to stick with what's existing, I'd leave everything what's existing, and there's an opportunity in the future if somebody comes in and they want to do something taller and we approve it, then that becomes, by your example, CX6.
Right.
So I think it's important to have it in there for flexibility, so in the future we could zone things to that, but I don't think we just apply it today. My opinion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Before we take this vote, Kay, will you let the audience know when the next work session is scheduled on this?
Yes, sir. The next work session is scheduled for Wednesday, January 29th at 5 p.m. in room 220.
And when is the next, the second reading currently scheduled?
February 10th.
Council can defer that if they wish, correct?
Correct.
We'll see how it goes. I will not be supporting a final reading under circumstances like this when things are so much in flux. But I will be supporting a motion tonight to try to move this thing forward. I will assure the public that we will we are doing everything we can to encourage council to propose all their amendments earlier in this phase. And that's why we have a work session scheduled. And I hope we make a lot of progress at that work session, and that we don't have the number of amendments that we've heard tonight. In the main motion, we still may hear a lot of amendments that are not passed, but I hope that the main motion is more resolved than this. Councilmember Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to say I'm hearing all that, and we will absolutely get together and have as many of these questions as we can ready to go on the work session. But unfortunately, these Mondays seem to be the best way to get the lists in. So I appreciate everybody's input, and it's what's going to make it better. It's just a matter of when it comes in.
And I thank staff and council for their long hours, and I particularly want to thank the folks who have stayed in the audience to listen to this riveting debate. And I encourage you to come to the work session and to continue to give us your input. It is helpful. So all in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That is Diamond, Dippolito, Wynn, and Orleans. All opposed? That is Eigelhart and Price. The first reading of the map and the text has now passed 4-2, and we'll be back for the work session for more fun. What's left on the agenda? City Attorney's report. Councilmember Price has a question or comment.
No, I just want to state for the record that I offered 16 alternative dates because I could not come to the work session this Wednesday, so I will be absent since that is the date that was selected.
Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item I have is a resolution to set the qualifying fees. As you know, currently the council has called a special election for May 20th in order to be ultra-conservative. The state requires that we have a qualifying fee set by February 1st. So I would ask for approval of this resolution to set the qualifying fee in case we do have the election.
I have a question. Does this still give council the option to cancel the election and call for an appointment and vote for an appointment?
Yes, it does.
Do we have a motion? A motion to approve by Councilmember Wynn.
Second.
I have a question.
Second by Councilmember Price.
I have a question.
Yes, question by Councilmember Orleans.
If we decide to go ahead with an elected, but we decide to have 2 part-time positions, and this fee is based on the income, can it be adjusted later, or how does that fit in?
For the election, be elect 2 part-time judges?
If we go, we've talked about election, we've talked about appointment, we've talked about more than just 1 full-time, more of 2 part-times.
Y'all
We haven't gotten
hurry and make a decision.
Pardon?
You'll have to hurry and make a decision.
The question was, does this cover electing 2 part-time judges?
This is the way it exists
1
now.
full-time judge.
So if we make a decision differently later,
we may have to postpone the election.
Or refund the money.
Or refund the money. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Well, there is a motion. We need a motion.
There was, never mind, there was.
There was a motion. Mr. Davidson retracted that. All in favor of the motion to approve the,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
So would this be the appropriate place to make it 2 part-time judges on the ballot? Or are we already past that time?
I think you could ask Mr. Davidson.
We will, you would have to, if you're going to go with that, you would have to, we probably need to change the charter, and we would, actually, I guess you could go under state law right now, but we would need to also change the charter. So, but it can be done if you want to do it now.
I
This
guess
is the
my
first time I
question
heard
is,
about 2 part-time
if
judges.
we-
Part-time elected.
2 part-time elected judges doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's a whole nother issue.
Well, I keep bringing it up, but it hasn't gotten a lot of traction. I guess the question is, if I vote for this now, does that preclude that for this election? Or is that already precluded?
Well,
we'd have to punt and start over.
Right.
I think you're going to have to make a call
Voting right now
tonight.
for that part, is
I
that?
don't think you
Well,
can.
this is the qualifying fee as it stands now in our charter. We have 1 full-time elected judge. This is just in case we go forward with that election, we're going to be on solid ground having the qualifying fee set. And it says by February 1st. This was the last chance we had, so.
But why can't we just change it, change what you have written to say could be for 2 part-time judges?
we would have
It's
to,
based on 3% of the salary.
we would have to determine the salaries tonight as well for those 2 part-time positions.
And have to decide it's appropriate to have 2 part-time positions. I think there's a appointment of a judge and 2 part-time judges. It seems like the worst of all worlds. You've got inconsistent positions, 2 judges with different, unless we truly can't handle a job with 1 judge, having 2 judges just doesn't.
We love having all these
Judge
extra
shopping,
attorneys
you got-
around.
Yes, question. Councilmember Price.
It seems that there are some council members who are aware of a possibility of 2 part-time judges. That's the first I've heard of it, and I don't know what meeting that occurred at, but I wasn't there.
That came up at a
Apparently it was a
committee
work
meeting.
session, but I wasn't there
Work
either,
session.
but that's.
I have this problem at home, too. I speak and somehow it doesn't get heard. I remember the aghast look I saw on staff's face when I brought it up.
We
so
have
I'm pretty
a-
sure I said it out loud.
We have a motion and a second we had a motion and a second to approve doing the qualifying fee. It would take another motion to put 2 part-time judges on. We don't have that motion yet. Right now, I have 1 motion. That's a motion for a full-time judge.
But if
And-
things changed, as you said, we would have to step back to base 1 and start over again.
Right, I'm just telling you procedurally, I have a motion to approve 1 full-time judge. I don't have on the floor, I don't have a motion for 2 part-time judges.
No,
I'd have to have a second motion, and we could vote on that if there's a second motion.
No,
This
the question
is
is at a
required
later
if you
date.
have elected judges. If you appoint All this goes out the window.
Appoint 2 part-time judges.
I understand,
another
but
possibility.
if we approve this tonight before February 1st, and sometime in the next month, we come to a decision finally on judges, and it determines to be more than one elected, do we have to start over with the whole process? and
That's what I understand.
Filing?
You'd have to change the charter then, yes.
Okay.
So that would be a whole nother process.
What I have is a motion and a second to approve the qualifying fee for a full-time judge. We can always change our minds, but we can't, I'm not sure how you can have 2 motions for. Any further discussion on the motion for a qualifying fee for 1 full-time judge elected? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That's unanimous. All right. We have closure. I think it's important we go forward with it. Even though it's a late hour, it's not midnight. So do I have a motion for closure? Come on, let me have a motion. Motion by Rich, second by Becky. All in favor? Just raise your hands. I'm gonna count that as unanimous. I don't, whether you voted or not. No slackers tonight.